Coming up on episode 285 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Kia Telluride, the Honda Pilot, and a whole bunch of news from the Chicago Auto Show, including interviews with Jim Morrison and Kristin Gomez. All that and more coming up next. This is Wheel Bearings episode 285. I am Sam Abdul-Salmon from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from Auto by Tel today.
And I am Roberto Baldwin, let's say Engadget.
And who's ready to go first?
Not me, because I'm still trying to log into Discord.
All right.
So, okay, I'm gonna preface something really quick. I have an EV6 GT right now, and I've only done half the tests. And one of the tests I want to do is this weird fun test. So I'm just going to say the EV6 GT is still awesome, but I'm going to hold off on talking about it until next week, because after we're done with the podcast today, I have to go drive it for 8 hours to do this like crazy test. But I don't know. I guess that's a teaser. Join us next week for.
Join us next week when Robbie talks about the car. Yeah.
You're going to see how far you can drive at 10 miles an hour.
Yes.
All right.
How horrible would that be, though? Here's like, well, we got 240 miles.
Well, let's see, 8 hours.
It took us 3 days.
That's about 80 miles, so that's not very far. All right. Nicole, are you ready, or should I go?
You should go first, Sam. It's that
All
kind
right.
of Sunday.
I had the 2023 Kia Telluride SX Prestige X Pro V6 all-wheel drive.
Wow.
Yeah. Too many X's in there.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, or maybe there's too few X's. I don't know. Depends on what your perspective is. But anyway, this is the refreshed Telluride that launched this year for 2023 model year. So it's got slightly different look to the front end. I mean, it's not dramatic. It's fairly subtle changes, but it's a typical mid-cycle refresh. And the X Pro is new for this year. So this is an updated, higher performance all-wheel drive system that has, I think, at least some modicum of center locking to ensure that you can transfer torque to both axles when you're in slippery conditions. I didn't have an opportunity to do anything really off-roady with it, but I've seen some other stuff that's been done with it where it's actually surprisingly capable in off-road conditions. The Telluride, of course, is Kia's 3-row crossover that is based on the same platform architecture as the Hyundai Palisade that I think you talked about last week, Nicole. Mm-hmm. But it has its own kind of distinct flavor to it in terms of design and just general feel, which I think is good. I mean, if you're going to have an automotive conglomerate with multiple brands that is sharing hardware, what you don't want to do is what GM did in the 1980s, late 1980s, where you had 4, in some cases 5 variants of the same vehicle that pretty much all looked exactly the same, and drove exactly the same, and felt exactly the same, but basically just had different badges on them. Hence the term badge engineering. In Hyundai and Kia, and frankly, other automakers have learned a lot since then, and even when they're using the same platform architectures, they've found ways to make the vehicles more distinct. So the Telluride has a little bit more of a little bit less of a luxury feel to it than the Palisade, but it still feels premium inside. It's a little bit cleaner design on the outside. And maybe slightly sportier, SUV-ish. Obviously it's the same basic shape. All big crossovers are the same basic wagon shape. But within that context, it's good. I like it a lot. I am a big fan of the Telluride. It's got a 3.8 liter V6 engine, same as in the Palisade, 8-speed automatic transmission. And the all-wheel drive, you can get it with front-wheel drive as well. But This one, the SX Prestige, has all the goodies in it. It's got the big dual panoramic sunroof, a dual 12.3-inch displays for the instrument cluster and the infotainment, surround view monitors with the blind spot view monitor system, which is pretty cool when you turn on the turn signals. There's cameras underneath the outside mirrors that show the view of your blind spot area in the instrument cluster in either the right or left-hand gauge, depending on which signal you turn on. You got a heads-up display in this one. The one thing Kia and Hyundai have not done yet is wireless support for smartphone projection. So if you're going to use your iPhone or Android phone, you do have to plug it in to get that functionality. But otherwise...
Well, see, that's so weird because on our Hyundai, we have wireless. But I have this EV6 GT, and I'm like trying to get it to like do wireless because on our Hyundai, which is the $35,000 EV, it's like we have wireless CarPlay, but not on the Kia. And it's like,
that is odd. I don't know why
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But it's got basically all, other than that, it's got all the goodies that you would want on a modern vehicle. 20-inch wheels. The X Pro comes with more all-terrain type tires. That give you nominally a little bit of extra traction in the dirt. But these are not what you would find on, say, a Wrangler or a Bronco. But it'll do for going down a dirt road. And digital key, and what else here? Rear occupant alert with ultrasonic sensors. So it's using the sensors inside the cabin to detect if there's somebody left behind, if you've left a kid behind in there, and give you an alert. So this engine is, in this vehicle is not exceptionally efficient. It's fine. It's not out of line with the competitive set. So it's rated at 18 miles per gallon city, 24 highway, 21 combined. I got about 20 during my time with it, which, as I said, is not going to get anybody too excited, but it'll do. And mine came with the Midnight Lake blue paint, which is it's a darker blue, with kind of grayish tones to it. It's not like a bright blue. It's attractive. Probably wouldn't be my first choice, but there's nothing wrong with it. And the terracotta interior, all in $55,120, which seems to be about the going rate for vehicles in this class, especially for the high end versions of them.
With all the things.
With all the things, they start in the upper 30s typically, and $55,000 is kind of where it's at. Any estimates of the inland freight and handling charge, as they call it on this Monroney?
Inland freight and handling. Well, that sounds.
I feel like it's cheating because I know what the destination charge is for the EV6 GT.
Okay.
So I'll just let Nicole pick. Just go.
I'm gonna go $13.25.
Oh, that is amazing! It's $13.35. You are
kidding?
$10.
Wow. Okay, go me. Woohoo!
Excellent job. All right. Cool. So that is the 2023 Kia Telluride SX Prestige X Pro V6 all-wheel drive.
The names. Please just shrink them down. Mine isn't quite that long this week. Is it my turn?
What did you have?
I have the 2023 Pilot all-wheel drive Trailsport. I mean, short. Like, they didn't even bother. They just threw names out there and was like, whatever, that's enough.
But what brand did that come from? You didn't mention
Honda.
the brand.
2023 Honda Pilot all-wheel drive Trailsport.
Okay.
There we go. How's that? So I guess that adds one more word.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So it's new this year, and the big new is that they've added this Trailsport trim, which is supposed to be their sort of off-road trim, but it's kind of off-road light. Like you were saying, Sam, no one's doing the Rubicon Trail in a Honda Pilot. That's not happening. This is more like, I'm someone who likes to be a little bit outdoorsy, and I need to drive my car across a little bit of dirt to get to a cabin or a dirt road to get to a lake or whatever. But it's not for heavy-duty off-roading. But it does have some little bits and pieces to make it more off-road worthy. This came in the most brilliant paint. It's like this blue, and it just says on here, it says diffused sky.
Is it the same light blue as the one that was on the show floor? Was there a blue one on the floor? I didn't even catch the blue one that was on the floor. Yeah, it was right next to the Honda Jet mock-up.
That must have been it, because it's this really, really bright blue, which kind of looks cool with the fact that the Trailsport stuff, they make it all orange accents, so there's like a little Trailsport badge sort of buried into the black grille, and there's orange accents inside, like it's on the headrest. It's embroidered with Trailsport. There's all this orange, stitching everywhere. It's even on the floor mats. So it looks a little different than all the other Honda Pilots. But they do give it a little extra stuff. So it's not just a matter of looking at, making it look better. They give it a little bit of extra. And now I've totally lost the page I had up. It gets extra stuff, and I'll bring this page up as I'm talking to you. But otherwise, it pretty much drives just like a Honda Pilot. It's not something that's off-roady enough that you think this drives like an off-road vehicle. It doesn't. It still drives pretty much the same. But it's a great option. It's got plenty of room. I love that the rear is, because this is a 3-row, to get to the rear seats, and I love it, the 3rd row rather, when they do this. There's not just like a latch on the side or even a button on the side of the 2nd row. There's one so that if you're in the 3rd row, you don't get left back there. Like the number of times you're riding
behind.
Don't pay attention, right? You're in the back seat, it's a bunch of you, and you're like, hello, can one of you flip the seat up? I'm trapped back here, I can't get out. So I like that there's a button that's easily accessible when you're standing outside the car for the 2nd row, that's right low on the seat cushion, and then there's one that's actually behind it, where you do the latch to release it. But if you're sitting in that 3rd row, you can just go boop, and it tips forward and slides forward, and you can really easily get in and out. The 3rd row is pretty comfy, but it has a very short floor. For someone especially like you, Robbie, your knees would be so high, it would be uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah, because the wheel, yeah.
Right, so it's not a matter of the distance that you have between your knees and the 2nd row. It's that floor.
Yeah.
It's going to push your feet really high, so it's not ideal for anything other than really average height people. I mean, I noticed it, and I'm 5'6", and I'm like, this wouldn't be great for an overly long drive. This would start to bug you. But I like the Honda Pilot. I think it's a comfortable car. It's nice to drive. It has good features. The infotainment has all the kind of stuff you want. It has 285 horsepower from its 3.5-liter V6 and a 10-speed automatic. So it moves. This isn't a tiny car. It's fairly large, but if you mash your foot on the gas, it's going to go. I didn't have a chance driving to any kind of weather because it's felt like springtime in New England. It was 12 below, and it's nope, enjoy 50. So winter apparently is over in 5 days here for this week. So, and it's, it has all the, this one, it has all the sort of bells and whistles. One of the things that you kind of lose, there's a difference, and aside from the off-road differences between the Pilot and this Trailsport, when you go into the cargo area, because they wanted to, and this is a good thing, but something you should be aware of. So in order to put a full-size spare there, they didn't want to give you a donut if you were going to be in the dirt off-road. You don't want to be driving in that. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you want a real tire. So it made the cargo, the underfloor in the back, a little bit shorter. It's not quite as deep as what you'll find. Right, because the other ones have a donut where this has a full-size spare. So you're sacrificing...
So is the tire accessible from... You go inside and open it up, or is it hanging underneath the body?
It's under, because that cargo space is all enclosed. It's not in there. But what's cool is, so you have a little bit less cargo. It's not like it's a huge amount, but if you look at one that has the donut versus one that has the full size, you can see the difference. You can even see it just looking at it.
That's a good trade-off to make, though. I think,
it is a good trade-off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so you're making a trade-off, but you're getting something really cool for that trade-off. The other thing that's kind of neat that you don't get in the Trailsport, but you do get in, I think it's all the other trims. It might just be the Elite, so don't quote me on this. It might not be all the trims in the Pilot, but the middle seat in the 2nd row pops out. You can pick it up, and you can lift it up and put it into that cargo space, and there's a yellow strap you put over it and secure it, and it fits right under the floor. So you can, if you don't want to have to use that seat, but you don't want to leave it in your garage, because maybe you will, because suddenly you've got the kids in the car, you've got an extra kid you got to take home from whatever, dance class, all you have to do is lift it up, and it's super easy. It weighs 30 pounds, so it's not like you have to be the Hulk to pick it up. Yeah, I'm like, held it. I was like, Chris at the auto show was showing me how it worked, and I'm like, well, how heavy is he? It's 30 pounds. I'm like, okay, you can move this. So, and it just like pops right into that cargo area underneath the floor, and there's like a little strap that keeps it secure because they don't want it like flopping around the car if something happens. But then when you put it back into its spot, it clicks in really easily, and there's like a little like pull tab. But what's even neat is like to make sure that you've got it fully in. Like if you almost put it in, you've almost clicked it, but it's not fully secure. There's this little window on the front of it that you can see, and it has a little red like a red piece that shows. If it's not really fully secured, it's red. So you know you haven't pushed it down hard enough. You get the full click. As soon as it's fully clicked, the red disappears. And it's just like a tiny little...
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
maybe
detail.
like a 1 inch by 1 inch little square that's low on the front of it. So just a good detail to make sure that you don't think the seat's in and it's not. Then if you slammed on your brakes, it's going to come free. So there's no way you can mistake it's either in or it's not, because you can see that little window. I thought that was kind of cool. I've not seen that in another car unless I've missed it. So.
Great.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, while you were talking, I pulled up on the Honda website that diffused sky blue pearl is the color. That's the same one that was on the show floor.
Okay, it's really pretty.
It is
like,
a nice car, a nice
it's
color.
It's this brilliant bright blue. You have to like blue. If you do not like blue, you're going to like the color. It is blue. You better
like blue.
It's like in your face, like, where did I park? Oh, right there. There I am, glowing in the corner. Woo, woo, woo. It's like very bright blue, but I liked it. I thought it was a fun color.
So you've driven the Telluride before.
Mm-hmm.
Which would you choose, the Telluride or the Pilot?
See, here's the thing. I like both of these cars, and I think driving them, it's a little bit a matter of personal preference. Where I would go with the Telluride is I think the Telluride just has a nicer interior, I think, overall. And you're putting a bunch of people in this. This isn't a sports car. This is an SUV. You're going to have 2 or 3 rows worth of humans in that car. And I think the Telluride is a little more upscale, and it doesn't even matter whether you're going with the base trim or the top trim, like across the board. The Telluride looks a little nicer, the seats are a little bit comfier, and it feels a little bit fancier. So if you like that look and feel, I would go with the Kia Telluride.
Okay. One of the in the Discord, Gifted Napper is listening in right now because we're streaming. He asked a question or had a comment and says, 2 people who bought a Toyota Highlander, only because the Telluride still doesn't offer a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. And I think probably the reason for that is because Kia is also working on the EV9 right now, which is going to be debuting soon. They're going to be showing that at the New York Auto Show in April, which is a similar sized vehicle, and it's battery electric. And that's going on sale later this year. I think you went on the Pilot Drive program, didn't you? Or did you?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Sorry, brain cramp. No, I did not do the Pilot Drive program. So I didn't get it until it was here. And what was funny is I know that this Pilot I had was on the Drive program because it took some of the red dirt from Arizona back with it.
Okay.
You could see that this had done a little bit of off-roading. It was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, this came right from the program.
Or sometimes they'll have the numbers in the window, like the key. The key I have. I have number 15.
Right, you have a little number. You're like, and then there was somewhere in there. There was like I opened the glove box or something, and it was like media vehicle for drive. I was like, okay, well we don't need this because we've already done the drive.
So I think for now Honda's only talked about this V6 engine that they've been using, I think, in the Pilot from the very beginning, from the first generation Pilot, I would say, they haven't talked about a hybrid in here, even though they're doing hybrids in the Accord and the CR-V and the Civic. And since Honda has the Prologue coming next year, which is also a similar sized vehicle, and that's an EV, that's probably why they're not doing anything electrified in this for the time being, at least. One other question, especially with the addition of this Trailsport model on the Pilot, when they launched the Passport, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, part of the rationale for that was, to make it more off-roady capable, and they did the drive program for that out in Moab when we went out there. Do you think this means, with the addition of the Pilot Trailsport, that they might not have a next generation Passport?
How well did it do? Did it do well?
It did not sell anywhere near as well as anywhere near the numbers of the Pilot. I think maybe like a quarter of the sales volume of the Pilot. It shares the same platform with the Pilot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you've heard anything about whether they might just
I
drop
haven't heard
the Passport.
anything. I don't know. And it's. I mean, if it doesn't do a lot of volume, I never see them anywhere. I see CRVs everywhere, and I see Pilots everywhere, but I literally never see Passports.
Passports, yeah. I say and Honda's they're like, well, it sells like, tens of thousands of units. They're like, yeah, compared to these two other vehicles though. That's how we end up that's how we end up losing the Fit, because they're like, well, the Fit sells like, 20,000 units or 30,000 units. They're like, yeah, but the CRV sells this many units.
A bazillion.
Yeah, so.
All right.
The crackling flame, the piercing heat. We were all born with a fire burning deep within our bellies. For me, Gustavus Swift, I turned my fire into the creation of Swift Foods back in 1855. For you, it might simply be to smoke a tastier rack of ribs than that blowhard Steve. Go on, find your spark. Swift Foods, inspiring extraordinary meals since 1855.
Cool. So let's see. Well, why don't we stick with three-row SUVs and jump to Chicago, where there was the debut of the Toyota Grand Highlander. What do you think of the Grand Highlander?
It's grand. It's bigger.
It's a Highlander?
It's a Highlander that's grander.
What I found interesting when they sent out the photos on Wednesday morning, Tuesday, whenever it was before the reveal, I looked at it and was like, yeah, this looks nothing like the current Highlander, and I mean, to me, it actually looks more like the RAV4, like a bigger version of the RAV4 than it does the Highlander, because the current Highlander's got these kind of curvy, bulbous lines to it, very, very different from any previous generation Highlander. And now this one is more squared off, boxy, more traditional looking.
It's weird how different the two look. Like normally when you go from, here's the X and the Grand X, they kind of look the same.
Yeah, longer.
Oh, we've made it a little bigger to give it a little cargo room, to give it a third row. This, you're like, wait, what? It really does not look like the Highlander.
Here's a different car.
Yeah. Like, just call it the Grand Highlander, but guys, we didn't design it off that. Just call it the Grand Highlander anyway.
Well, it does actually share its platform with the Highlander.
Yeah.
Although the wheelbase is 4 inches longer and it's 6 inches longer overall, so you got a little more rear leg room, more cargo room. Like third row leg room is improved. More cargo room. It's also a couple inches taller, so you've got more headroom. They didn't release a whole in the press release. There were very few specific details, and they didn't mention the only dimension they mentioned in there was the cargo volume with the second and third row seats folded down, which is 98 cubic feet, which is 14 cubic feet more than the standard Highlander. So it's a pretty substantial difference. With that few inches of extra length and height makes quite a bit of difference in how much space is available in there. When I talked to the chief engineer at the show, he told me that the wheelbase is 4 inches, an extra 4 inches, and 6 inches from bumper to bumper. The other major change, in addition to the sheet metal being all different, the interior, the dashboard and everything is all completely unique to the Grand Highlander. So it's not the same interior, although, it's got same kind of parts, touch screens and knobs and everything in the same places. It's just the supporting parts are different. So it looks different, but, it's functionally the same. And then they added an option of the Hybrid Max powertrain that we've previously seen on the Crown and the Lexus RX. So that's a 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder hybrid with all-wheel drive, which is I think 362 horsepower compared to about 220 or so with the standard hybrid powertrain.
I like the Hybrid Max. I think that's a good powertrain. I think that little extra oomph is nice. Sometimes you can't tell the difference. Like, oh, here's the better version of this or the more powerful version. You're kind of like, yes. Like, okay, if you say so. I'm like, I don't notice any difference. You can tell the difference between these two.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, it's a huge difference. Like in the Crown, you can really tell between the standard hybrid and the Hybrid Max.
I would get the Max. Which would you get? Would you get the hybrid or the Hybrid Max? You're looking for hybrid. Which would you get?
I would probably go with the Max because the other major difference with the Max is instead of the eCVT transmission, it's got a standard. I think it's a 6-speed automatic transmission in there.
Yeah.
And so it feels a lot more natural when you're driving it. It never has that motorboating effect where you go to accelerate and it revs up to 4,000 RPM and stays there until the vehicle speed catches up to it. So it's not always the most pleasant experience.
What about you, Robbie? What would you go with?
Max. I mean, it's in the name. If you're going to get the Grand, you got to get the Max.
You got to get the Max. The Max.
I mean, you're already upgrading. Yeah, if you're already upgrading to supersize your meal, you might as well get the curly fries.
So the Hybrid Max is the curly fries.
It's the curly fries.
So always
the
go for the curly
supersize.
fries.
Let's go for the curly fries.
Always go for the curly fries.
Yeah, Gifted Napper also just commented again in the Discord that the Grand Highlander you can't get the platinum trim, which is the top trim, with a second row bench seat. So it's not necessarily the most practical for a family of 5. One person would always have to be in the third row. But you do have more room in that third row now. So maybe it's not such a bad thing.
If you have a family of 5, there's always one kid who's in trouble anyway.
Right.
So that's the one who goes in the back. There's always, like, I'm from a family of 5. There's always one of us that was in trouble in the back.
And do you really want 3 kids crammed into the bench seat in the middle?
But you don't. I just remember trying to get a kid like in the back, like when I went with other families, and we'd have enough that we needed to use the third row. It was like, oh gosh, trying to get little ones into the third row. It's like you have to be a contortionist to get back there, buckle them in, force them into the seat when they're toddlers, and they're like, it's hard to, if you had to do that every day, every single day, unless you had at least one kid who was truly like, I am a responsible child, I shall hop in the back and buckle myself in, and I'm old enough to do that. That would not be easy to live with.
You just have to make sure the oldest child is the troublemaker, so they're always in the back.
They always just get shoved in the back. You're bad. Why? Because I said you are. Sit in the back.
Because you know how to buckle your own seatbelt. Hey, what?
Mistakes were made, child.
But if you've got 3 kids that need to be in child restraints, child seats, anyway, you probably wouldn't want a platinum anyway. You'd probably want a lower trim level, because it's going to be getting all messed up and
gross.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. I had like gorgeous leather seats in one of the SUVs I had when the girls were little, because I was always in the car. Like you drive around so much. They're in different schools. You go to pick up one and drop off one, and pick up one and then drop off the other, and then one has an appointment here and one has an appointment in there. And you kind of live in your car a little bit with when you have
so you treat yourself.
Kids. So you treat yourself. You're like, I don't care. You can spill French fries, your curly fries. You can get your curly fries all over those fancy seats. I'm going to enjoy the 2 up front that are clean and tidy and neat.
They should have a parent trim level where it's just the front seats are really nice. And the back is just like that really easy to clean vinyl.
Awesome? You had like Napa leather seats up front and ultra suede and all the fancies. Like in back, it's a bench seat with vinyl.
Yeah. Well, or you can hose it off. It's got a drain hole.
It has the plugs in the hole like a Wrangler.
Or get one of those dog seat covers like I have for, when I take Daisy.
Oh, yeah. You have the dog seat cover.
Just put this, drape it over the rear headrest. And
that would work.
Yeah.
The dog seat cover. That would work.
Hey, I mean, to be honest, not that much difference between a puppy and small children.
Surprisingly, there are a lot of similarities.
The puppy doesn't poop in the car as much. That's all I'm saying.
That is true.
Kids are pooping everywhere.
Kids are pooping everywhere.
Speaking of puppies, let's move on to Subaru. Because Subaru, as always, won the Chicago Auto Show because they had the puppy corral there.
Oh my God, they were so cute.
Did you see the ones on Friday that they had on Friday morning?
No.
Oh no, you were already gone.
I was gone. I saw the Thursday morning ones when they first came out, and they were like They were so
they were
snazzy.
Chihuahua boxer mix, which they were so cute.
Oh my God, they were so cute, and they were just. There was one woman who like kneeled down on the floor, and they were like on her, like, come in. Oh my God, they were so cute. And then I walked by later, and they're just all passed out in a giant puppy pile. I'm like, oh, they're still so cute.
And Friday, because they rotate them out every day of the show, so they don't
overwhelm them.
And Friday they had a litter of black labs, and apparently, I guess Paul Eisenstein adopted one.
Did he really?
Yeah,
Paul got a puppy?
Yeah. So, anyway, Subaru also had a car there. They introduced the 2024 CrossTrek, which, shockingly enough, does not look radically different from a 2023 CrossTrek, even though it's all new. What did you think of the CrossTrek, the new CrossTrek?
I think it's a nice iteration, like a little bit different. Like you wouldn't know the difference. Like if I put them next to each other, I don't think I could tell huge differences. Could you? Could you eyeball it?
No, if you put them right side by side, I probably could, because I mean, there's subtle differences in the grille and things like that. You can at least tell that they're different model years. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you know how to identify the current generation CrossTrek, you will immediately be able to identify the new one.
It still has the same characteristics.
Yeah,
it's sort of a unique
same basic
vehicle.
shape.
Yeah, it still looks like a CrossTrek, which is going to make CrossTrek people happy. I don't feel like Subaru is one of those brands that needs to do like, we got to come up with new and exciting and completely bold and in your face. It's like we just got to make what we have a little bit better, and they did.
No one buys Subarus because they're pretty.
No.
I had a bug-eye Subaru. It wasn't a pretty car. It was my favorite car, my WRX bug-eye sport wagon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't buy it because it looked beautiful. I bought it because it was like, this is the car I want. It's I can do crazy, off-roading and on-roading with it. No one cares what it looks like. You can put your dogs in it. It's all-wheel drive. It's rugged. It's going to drive for a long time. That's it.
I have a neighbor who's had Subarus forever. She's like a Subaru junkie. Like she's lived there, I think, for 12 years. I think it's the third or fourth Subaru that I've seen between her and her husband. The other day and I was so on the road, I had a Genesis G80 electrified for a hot minute yesterday. She's like, that's the car I want to replace it with. I'm like, you're going from a Subaru to a Genesis G80? What?
Wow.
I was very thrown. I'm like, that's quite the stretch.
It's a jump.
You got to share that story with Wendy Orthman.
I know. I feel like, Wendy, I got a neighbor who wants to go from Subaru to Genesis.
They're going to keep that Subaru, though. They're going to get that Genesis, but they're still going to drive the Subaru everywhere. They're just going to pound it through,
They might.
mountains
the Subaru
and
might
stuff.
Just sit there, right? The Subaru will be like car number 3. They're like, no, we're not giving that up. We love our Subaru.
You can't get rid of the Subaru.
You can't get rid of the Subaru. You're not allowed.
One really nice thing about the 2024 Subaru CrossTrek has the very same starting MSRP as the 2023 at $24,995.
Nice.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
The CrossTrek?
Yeah, it's all-wheel drive. It's a decent size. That's $25,000 for that. That is a bargain.
It's a good price.
Subaru's the only automaker who's ever said, "Yeah, take your dogs in the car."
Yeah.
Because I was going on a drive. I was going on a drive up north, and I was supposed to, the fleet manager was like, "Hey, do you need a car?" I'm like, "Oh, we're taking the dog up to Bennett or whatever, I don't know, something up north, Fort Bragg." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then he got back to me like an hour later. He's like, "Hey, Subaru would love to give you the Outback to take up." I'm like, or not the Outback, the CrossTrek. And we're like, "All right." We stuck the dog in it, and it was great. It's
good to have Gifted Napper in the listening.
I know,
Discord.
he's fun. I like him.
Betting people who buy CrossTrek probably aren't too concerned about radical advancements in design. My boss has one, and she calls it a cross something because she knows nothing about cars. She just
the all new 2024
drive and
cross
it's safe.
something.
You can fill it full of stuff. They love dogs.
Yeah.
It's all-wheel drive. It's lowish to the ground.
What more could you ask for?
They're just little tanks. You just drive them around.
They are little tanks.
They're just tiny little tanks. Everyone loves them once they have one. Yeah.
All right. Something that is slightly more tankish. The refreshed 2024 Volkswagen Atlas and Atlas CrossSport.
I was not clicking on that when you said slightly more tankish. I was going to a totally different item on this list. I'm like, whoops, not that one.
Well, we'll get to those. So the CrossTrek, not the
CrossSport
and the regular Atlas are still fundamentally the same as they were, but as usual, they've gotten that mid-cycle update, which means since it's 2023, they must have a larger grille. So a little more grille, a little more screen in the interior, and new powertrain. They've finally, the last of the VR6 engines is gone from the U.S. market. No more Volkswagen VR6s in America. And the standard 2-liter turbo that they had before is also gone. So now there's just one powertrain option, which is still a 2-liter turbo, but 269 horsepower, 273 foot-pounds of torque, which should be plenty for this vehicle. Still has a 5,000-pound towing capacity. Did you get a chance to take a close look at this thing, Nicole?
I did not get a chance to take a look at the Volkswagen. I didn't make it over to their reveal on Thursday night. So did you get an up close and personal?
I didn't get over to the event, but I did take a look at it on the show floor on Friday morning. It's got a bigger 12-inch center touchscreen now, and it has a row of touch controls along the bottom of it, just like in a VW ID4.
Oh. Are they backlit? Did you ask if they were backlit?
They did appear to be backlit, yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. As long as they're
at least there's that.
Because if with the ID4, they're not backlit, and you're like, oh, I need to turn up the heat or turn down the music, and it's just doing things because you can't see it. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, or, I mean, my big complaint with the ID4 was, if you're trying to brace your hand, as you're driving down the road, bracing your hand along that bottom edge while you're touching something, you always end up hitting one of those controls, and suddenly the mode switches on the screen. You go from navigation to media controls.
You're like,
Like, what have I done?
Yeah. But we'll see if it works any better on this one. Got 6 USB-C ports, standard, optional 8, 45-watt fast charging, at least for your devices, because this is not an EV. What else? Oh, and IQ Drive driving assist is standard equipment on here. So this is their hands-free lane centering, or not, hands-on lane centering system. I mean, let's not get confused here. So similar to Nissan ProPilot and some of the other systems out there. So it does lane centering and adaptive cruise control. And that's basically it. Bigger grill, bigger screen, more powerful engine.
The Atlas is just like, oh, this is a good car. It's not exciting, but it's good. You're like, oh, yeah, you need just get the Atlas. You're fine.
Yeah. No,
you'll be good. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
it'll work.
Fine. It's fine. Good car.
Okay. Let's jump to Jeep. We'll jump to Stellantis, and we'll start with Jeep. So Jeep had... they're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Wrangler Rubicon. And Jim Morrison was very excited about this. Jim is the head of Jeep North America. Nicole, you want to tell us about the Wrangler Rubicon 20th anniversary?
So I love this expression that they used in the presentation. He talks about how, like, the Wrangler Rubicon was supposed to be for this, like, lunatic fringe, right? And I'm like, the what? I'm sorry now? They call it the lunatic fringe. Have you ever heard this expression before from Jeep? I thought it was brilliant because when you see what people do in a Wrangler Rubicon,
on one hand, I'm like, well, I'm a sort of, I feel bad for these people. I'm upset for them, and then like 2 seconds later, I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're kind of jealous, right? You're like, I feel bad for these people.
You know what? Never mind.
Are awesome, right?
They're like Subaru owners. They know who they are. They know what they want.
And they're proud to be the lunatic fringe.
Yes.
So where there's this big presentation. It was fun to watch talking about this, and they basically came up with, when they first did the Rubicon and sort of saying, and then we did a 10th anniversary, and then we made it more Rubicon-ish, and then now we're going to make it even more Rubicon-ish still, and they added all sorts of off-road stuff. And they've even done, what's the special edition? Because I should have it up in front of me. They've done an edition
the level 2 with AEV.
Yeah, and there's like 150 each of those, I think.
Well, they're doing 4,000 of the standard 20th anniversary editions,
right?
And then there's 150 of these level 2s,
which are even more.
Yeah.
I was going to say a different phrase, and I can't swear, but they're even more lunatic fringe than the other ones. It's really just like taking cars, like people who really go out there. You're gonna. I mean, you want a Wrangler Rubicon. That's what you're going to go out there and try and do stuff that they say you can't do. And that's basically who this is targeting, the people who just want to sort of like, I love my Wrangler, I love my Rubicon, I want to go out there and do crazy stuff that I shouldn't be able to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to push it and see, like, I think it's neat that this lets people say, like, okay, how far can you take it? Like, we say you can climb up X, well, you're going to climb up X squared. Go for it. And they pull it off, and they do it. And then Jeep sort of looks at it and says, well, we actually should probably make it so X squared is part of it. Okay, let's do that. Then they just keep pushing Jeep to do more. And I feel like the Rubicon 20th anniversaries are like yes, you have pushed us to do a little bit more. So they're everything you love about the Rubicon times 10. How's that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's on 37-inch tires and wheels with beadlock capable wheels, and I think a 1.5-inch additional lift on the AEV version, the level 2 version. So yeah. Oh, and one of the things that they put on all of the 20th anniversary models is an off-road front camera, which is set up similar, because you have the same thing available on the Bronco, where typically the exterior cameras, the front and rear cameras that they have on there, they're required to shut off, by regulation, they're required to shut off when the car gets to about 5 miles an hour. So when you're backing up, if you back up when you back up, they stay on. But if you're going forwards, if there's a forward camera, it can't be on above 5 miles an hour because they don't want you getting distracted. The one exception to this is if you're in an off-road mode. Like if you're in four-wheel drive low, you can turn on this camera and you can see what's in front of you, which when you are off-roading, which is probably the only place where you should be using four low.
Yeah.
Unless you like driving along, at 10 miles an hour,
sometimes
5,000 RPM,
Yeah,
sometimes you don't want to back out of the Target parking lot, and it has the little cement stopper. You can just drive right over it.
Yeah. At least you can now see exactly where that cement barrier is.
Yeah.
Feel it, boom, boom, boom.
And when you're off-roading, especially if you've done something foolish like going out to an off-road area by yourself without a spotter, then when you're coming over some of these hills, you want to see what's on the other side of that hill. Do I really want to go over that hill?
Yeah.
Which you should always know. Never go over the hill unless you know what's on the other side.
Exactly.
Always look first.
Always look first.
Stopping before you go up the hill, trudging up the hill, looking, and then trudging back down to your car.
Yeah.
Do not just go over the hill. Bad things happen if you do that.
That's right. There could be mud pits down there that will swallow up your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That sounds like your personal experience.
Sam says this with some conviction.
Yes. Did you know that a mud pit can swallow a Bronco Raptor if you're not careful?
No.
Oh, mud pits swallow everything.
Are you sure, Sam?
Yeah, I am absolutely positive of this. I have definitely firsthand experience of that. And that level 2 also comes with a winch and all kinds of other good stuff. These things are, let's say, not inexpensive.
They're pricey.
Yeah,
well, they're just putting all these stuff on it.
So
it's like you're getting the curly fries, but then you're putting gravy on it, and your hamburger's now
curds.
deep.
Don't forget the cheese
You're
curds.
getting cheese curds. You're getting
and your hamburger has been like beer battered and fried, and your soda's like the size of a Fiat 500.
Sort of the size of a Fiat. Why can't I find the pricing in here? I just remember that it was frightening.
It's for the 4xe. So if you want the 20th anniversary 4xe, it's about $70,000. Mm-hmm. If you want, so there's only two engine options available: the 4xe or the 392 V8. The 392 is $91,000, and then that level 2 package adds another $20,000 on top of the other ones.
So you're looking at a Jeep Wrangler that is over $100,000. $111,000. $111,000. And you know what? The reality is they're going to sell every single one of those.
They're probably already sold.
They're probably gone.
Yeah.
And people are like, in line, can I get more? Yeah.
No, these are sold. These are, yeah.
So it's like, because it's such an enthusiast brand. I mean, such an enthusiast brand. People that love Jeep love Jeep.
And it's nice because like the current generation of Jeeps are good. Whereas before they were like, we love Jeep, and I'm like, oh.
A little rough around the edges. Right now you're like, oh, okay, you love Jeep and you love the Wrangler. I get it now.
Except for the hardcore, like the previous generations, like hardcore Jeep people where they just rip everything off and rebuild it. I'm like, yeah, just do whatever you want.
Yeah, like my neighbor across the street's got a 97 TJ.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's basically rebuilt the entire
Like the only thing that really is Jeep is the 7-slot grille. Everything else, none of the rest of this is actually a Jeep anymore. It's other random parts. But see, the grill, it was a Jeep when I started.
Yeah, well, my neighbor, he's been replacing the fenders on his 97, replacing the steel fenders with aluminum ones.
Oh.
Because the steel is too heavy. So he's been fabricating aluminum ones that look just like the original.
Wait, he's making his own? He's fabricating his own fenders?
He's got a really cool shop in his garage. He fabricates all kinds of things. He's a semi-retired Ford manufacturing engineer.
Oh, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's got welding gear. And
it's not like me. Yeah. I'm in the backyard. Things are always a quarter-inch too small. I'm like, damn it.
With a hammer trying to make it fit.
Mallets solve so many problems.
They do.
All right. So Nicole and I had a chance to sit down in a Wagoneer with Jim Morrison, to just like the last time in a Wagoneer.
I know, right? That's only I guess you need a Wagoneer to talk to Jim now.
Yeah, to have a chat, and I will drop that in here. Jim,
yes.
20th anniversary of Wrangler Rubicon, and I'm curious. Rubicon has done so well for Wrangler. You've got Trailhawk versions of a lot of other Jeep models, but do you see Rubicon as something that might expand to other Jeeps, or is that something that's purely
Wrangler? I think we've had that debate over the years, but it is such a connection to the Jeep community and the Rubicon Trail that we're leaving that completely Wrangler territory.
Okay. The 20th anniversary edition, you've taken the Rubicon and made it even more Rubicon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So give us some of the highlights.
Well, I love what you said, because I think what I really love about Rubicon is it defines 4x4 capability, and you even used it that way, and that's America does, and that's really evolved over the last 20 years. And what I love about the story is it came naturally from our Jeep engineers who knew that that's what our customers wanted, right? So we made it, and our customers are such a valuable part of what we are at Jeep. They drove us to making a more capable Wrangler, which is great. So we call it the Rubicon in sort of homage to the hardest trail that we have in America. It's absolutely incredulous. It's a hard trail, and when you look at the original, you think, man, how do you even get through that? With that original Rubicon, and then you look at the 10th anniversary and think, okay, that's amazing how much more capable that one is in 10 years. That is actually my son's Brett's too.
Really?
It's actually, we borrowed his 10th anniversary.
Did you really? You borrowed his?
Yeah. That was there. So
normally it's kids borrowing their parents' car, but this time you borrowed your kid's car.
I did.
Okay.
Yes. Which was kind of fun. And then the 20th anniversary needed to be even more capable than the 10th, right? Which is amazing. We just keep pushing the limits. More ground clearance, more tire size, more capability, more approach, more departure, better steel bumpers. All of that stuff we built into the 20th anniversary in a way now that really only we can, because we've got both electric and gas. So we've got the epitome of the gas world with our 392 V8, 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, and then we've got that same level of torque with our all-electric range, or with our electric 4xe. We can still get 20 miles of range with that thing, even with 37-inch tires. It's incredible, what that technology has done for us. So we both have different personalities, but most importantly, it's what a scope of vehicles that we have here in the 20th.
So I loved that when you did the presentation here, you referred to people as the lunatic fringe.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the people who are the ones who did the most Rubicon-ish things in their Rubicon. Is that who you think is going to pretty much go for this 20th anniversary? Is it going to be the lunatic fringe who's going to get these?
Well, what's interesting is that lunatic fringe is actually a lot more expanded. They're not really a fringe anymore. And if I look at how the Rubicon has expanded over the years, and even, my last, 15 years here at Jeep, watching, that group of people that are just drawn to freedom and adventure, that's growing so dramatically. And it's everything from, the people that like driving on grass to, to people that are doing the Rubicon Trail. Both is off-roading for a lot of people, but it's the people that are, trying to get to that amazing space so they can see the best sunset, or it's the people that are just going out wheeling for the sake of, challenging themselves and their Wrangler that they built up, in their garage, to make it the most capable. So it's everything in between, but it's incredible what the community keeps pushing. It's all capability based. To keep making a better Wrangler, keep making a better Wrangler.
So it's still lunatics, they're just not a fringe anymore.
Exactly. It's actually the lunatic norm, which is great, because everybody keeps saying, and if you watch TV, you'll watch other people trying to be freedom and adventure, but the nice thing about our brand is when you really are the ones that started it and have been consistent with it for 82 years, that's still what people look to in the end.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. I was talking earlier with a couple of people about the growth over the last few years in the crossover market of these more rugged, off-roady type variants of mainstream crossovers. You've got the Kia Telluride's got this SX all-wheel drive, and everybody's got their own variations on this. And of course, Jeep has long had the Trailhawk variants, but really, Jeep is whether it's the Rubicon or the Trailhawk, they're the only ones that are really capable of doing this off-road stuff. The others, they can go down some gnarly dirt roads, but that's about it.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that even Grand Cherokee, and I'm looking over at a Compass, they are always the most capable in their class. You're right. They you don't find a lot of Compasses on the Rubicon Trail, and even out of Moab, the Grand Cherokees that you see on the trails, they're modded 10-year-old Grand Cherokees. Mm-hmm. But what's important is capability still drives the best four-wheel drive system in Compass versus the competition, Grand Cherokee versus the competition, and there are different levels of what's important to 4x4 capability. And for Grand Cherokee specifically, snow capability is really important to that Jeep, right? It's why it continually wins awards out in New England.
It's a perennial favorite for the New England Motor Press. It's always getting awards because it's perfect in the snow. It's great.
When you get 2 feet of snow, you want a Jeep.
Yeah. It's that snow berm at the end of your driveway that you're like, I can drive through the snow on the road, but what has the plow just done? And your Jeep can get through it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to plow. You don't have to plow. Just push this button, it cracks it up to we're going to go up to off-road mode, put it in the snow, and you go. So capability means different things to different people. But you're right. The hardcore lunatic fringe people will pretty much stay focused on Wrangler.
And of course, even for those most hardcore of lunatic fringe, I think the way you described it, when that original group created that first Rubicon 20 years ago, I'm assuming they mostly took parts out of the Mopar catalog and maybe some other third-party stuff and put it on there. And today, you still have things in the Mopar catalog to make even a Rubicon more extreme.
Yes, yeah, and you saw it a little bit here today with, the AV Level 2, that they're doing, and really taking it up to the next level again with 37 inches of water fording, the KO2 37s. Incredible. 50 degrees approach angle. You can just drive up to a wall and go up it, and it's incredible what those guys are doing with the Wrangler as well. It's kind of in the same, line of thinking as the original lunatic fringe, folks.
I think you said there's going to be, 4,000 of the 20th anniversary edition?
Yep.
Is it 2,000 of each of the 4x8, or
I didn't say.
Order?
Yeah, I wanted to give the. I didn't.
Cagey.
I was cagey. Yeah, well, I want to let our customers decide.
Okay, fair.
If they want to do, 3,099 392s or 3,099 4x's, we can do that. It's kind of hard to be doing just one of something, but anyway, we'll see. But that's the nice thing is we're giving our customers choice.
I think you'll have more than one.
They can decide which one do you want. A 392 or 4xe. What's interesting is I've been driving that 4xe around for about a year. With that suspension technology, and actually had it out of Moab last year.
Oh, did you?
So I was hiding it in plain sight. It was
again with the cagey. You don't even know what he's doing.
It was fun, and I can say it's amazing. It's so capable. The guys always put a winch on my Wrangler because can't get the Jeep guy stuck, right? So
that would be bad. It would be bad for him to have you stuck.
Apparently it's really bad for social media.
You absolutely want a winch on something like that. I had a Bronco Raptor last fall. I took it out to the Mountains ORV Park and got it thoroughly stuck in a mud pit. And it was a couple with an older XJ Cherokee with a winch that got me out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, that thing would still be sitting there.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I won't say exactly what. Anyway, I won't even say what. No, I can't. Anyway, my winch is
I'm gonna bust this and say handler, making sure Jim is not on the line. And she's like, no.
I've got a great
other
story.
vehicles.
I've got a great story for you.
Humanitarian on the off-road trail. Is that a good way to?
I've helped a lot of folks on the trail, and I love doing that.
But never having to help a Jeep, just other brands that aren't as good as yours, right?
Well,
he'll pass up.
So, anyway, it's fun because Anyway, my winch has been helpful, but I haven't got that Jeep stuck.
All right, that's good.
Can I say that in a way? That Jeep that I have on my winch has been very helpful.
Yes.
But I have never got that Jeep stuck.
Okay, that sounds fair. That Jeep, but that's only telling him about one Jeep. See, when we hit the not record button, we'll find out what he's really gotten stuck.
Oh, I often get Jeep stuck. I mean, they say there's no way, and sometimes they're right.
There's limits to everything.
Everything
sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're like, holy crap, you did that. I'm like, yeah, okay. That same day that I was using the winch, someone said I can't go up that because no production vehicle has ever gotten up that. It took me 3 or 4 attempts, but I got up it.
So it was like challenge accepted. I will accept that before I leave here.
Yeah. So it was. I got a good video of that too. But
one of the interesting details that you mentioned on the 20th anniversary model is the front off-road camera.
Yes.
So is that set up so that, because typically the exterior cameras are designed for regulatory reasons, they have to turn off at like 3 miles an hour or something like that. Is that one that can stay on at higher speeds so that if you're going through a trail where you've got limited visibility, you can see what's in front of you?
No, just low range.
Okay.
Only low. You can run at low range, low speed. It'll stay on.
Up to
you can run 20 miles an hour, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you're low range on a trail, that's 20 miles an hour. That's what I meant as far as speed.
Yeah, which is good because it actually has tire tracks, and you can point the tire tracks where the Jeep will go in the future, which is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then you're going over a hump like up there in Camp Jeep. It's really nice to have.
Yeah, that's a great feature, especially if you might be out somewhere and maybe don't have a spotter.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to have.
Yeah. Yep. So, what about the rest of the Jeep lineup? Wagoneer's doing really well. The Wagoneer family is doing well. What about Cherokee? I think production on that has kind of stopped. Is there going to be a new Cherokee at some point?
There will.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a big segment for us here in America, and right now we're covering off that segment with both the Grand Cherokee and the Compass. The Compass just got a new 2-liter turbo, and it's got the 10-inch radio, lots of tech, great new interior. So we're able to cover off that segment, with both those vehicles kind of on the fringes of it, but we're not going to abandon that segment. We're going to continue to invest in it, and we'll be back soon with a really good new one.
Okay. And then still on track to start launching some BEVs in 2024?
Yes. Yeah, you'll be able to order our Wagoneer S still without a name, awkwardly.
We'll have a name by the time you start.
Is that on your to-do list?
Well,
the Wagoneer?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the group decided to do a naming test because someone had told them that, a few years ago we ran a test and we came up with the altitude name for that.
Yeah.
And anyway, we went out to the community and said, what should we call this blacked out variant of Grand Cherokee at the time? And we got altitude back to the name. But it's actually slowed down the process because we got so many names as ideas. You got to go through each one of them.
All of them now.
And yeah, so
naming's
anyway,
hard.
It is hard.
I mean,
it's a sport of cadence.
If you're not careful, you might come up with something like a Fila.
That's funny. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
all right.
And then right after that, we have the Recon. So we'll be able to put your orders in for both the Wagoneer S and the Recon this year, and both will be available here next year for...
I'm not going to lie, I'm excited about the Recon.
Recon's good.
I'm excited about
Doors off, top off.
Yeah, that's
down the Rubicon Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to try that.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
I would take that adventure.
Yeah. Be a good adventure.
Excellent. You got anything else?
No, I'm done.
All
That's
right.
it.
Good. Jim,
All right.
any last thoughts about Jeep that you want to share?
No, just good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Less fun without a cookie.
I know. You know what? If the auto show and there's no crumble, next time I'll get you cookies. I promise, Jim.
Yeah.
We'll get cookies. I promise.
I think it's your turn because last time I got the cookies.
You did. You wouldn't let me buy it. Okay, fine. Now the gauntlet's thrown. I will be buying cookies and bringing you cookies next program.
And Patty wants to see pictures of your kitchen.
Okay, pictures of the kitchen for Patty, cookies for Jim. Check.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia.
Okay, and we're back. And there was more news from Stellantis at the auto show from Ram. Mike Koval, who's the head of Ram, or CEO of Ram, I guess, he announced they had the Ram 1500 Revolution, which they unveiled last month at CES. They had it on display in Chicago, and he announced that today, as we're recording, today is the day of the Super Bowl, and of course, Stellantis will have a bunch of ads, including one for Ram, which will publicly reveal the Ram 1500 Rev, which is the official name of the electric version of the Ram 1500 that is coming in Q4 of next year. So it's still good, more than 18 months away.
Yeah, that's a ways off.
Yeah. And this morning, as we record, they actually released a bunch of photos of it. And have the two of you had a chance to take a look at the photos or watch the ad?
Yeah, I've looked. I haven't seen the ad. I've looked at the photos, and I think I know that people have thoughts about the concept versus what this is, but I think they're smart doing the same thing that Ford did, which is just like, let's just make sure that everything that people bought for their Rams works with their Ram Rev.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, and you need to do that because when you think if you want people to step up and go with this, you don't want people to think if they're a Ram loyalist. Well, everything I have that's my Ram stuff no longer works with my Ram. You know.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing is they showed some really cool ideas on the concept, like having the midgate on there, like GM is doing on their electric trucks, and having the pass-through from the cab into the front trunk, so you can put in objects that are up to 18 feet long with the bed closed. That's not going to be there. There's no midgate. This thing, aside from the front clip, the rest of it looks just like a current Ram 1500, including the same Ram boxes, which are great. But, again, the concept had much larger Ram boxes.
Yeah.
So a lot of the coolest features seem to be missing from the production version. But as you said, Robbie, all the accessories and stuff that people use on current Ram 1500s should just drop right in and fit on this thing. So I think they are still saying that it's going to have over 400 miles of range, which is going to be a significant advantage over the Lightning. and even though
what's the range on the Lightning? I can't remember.
The maximum is about 320.
Well, that's a big difference.
Yeah. So there will presumably be a significantly larger battery in the Ram. But if you like the look of the current Ram, which I do, and just put the tuning fork lighting signature on the front of it, that's basically the Ram 1500 Rev.
I like that the front is more like aerodynamic. I'm so sick of like just big flat fronts. You can't see anything because of them, because they cut down on visibility, because you're giving people a square as opposed to a nice slope. And they're also they're giant, like, this aerodynamic. It's a box. You're driving. You just give us a Honda Element if that's what you want.
Actually, you're really right. It really is very curved in the front, like as it comes down over the Ram badge and towards the front fender. I didn't really pick it up until you said it, but that is significantly more curved and softer than what you have in most pickup trucks. It's nice. I don't know. Did they need to make? Was it that they're like everyone was really angry? We're going to make it look like it's like coming straight for you. Just this big.
It was the Raptor. The Raptor started it all with the giant. It was essentially a billboard for a car.
Smack coming right for you.
Yeah, just coming at you, and so everyone's like, "Well, now we all have to do this." It's everyone just follows. Like one thing comes out that looks cool, or people, the people who like it think it looks cool, and so then everyone follows up. And Toyota was the last one to let's put it in the Tundra, and now Ram's like, ha.
It changed it up.
I'm sure
Ram. Hopefully everybody follows suit and gets a little kinder, softer.
Yeah,
I
bet this Ram
truck. And that that's the part that's closest to the concept, is that front end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like I said, I think the thing that people are going to be disappointed by is that a lot of those really cool features that we saw on the concept are not going to be on this production version.
Yeah. Well, they got 2 years.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll add a few. No, they won't. But
that's too big of a change.
I think if this sells really well, then they're probably going to be like, okay, well, maybe we can do those other things.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hopefully. All right. One last one before we get into a couple of listener questions is Hyundai Evolve Plus, which was announced at the show. And this is a new EV subscription plan from Hyundai, which is kind of cool. There's a new app that you can download. If you go into the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, you can look for Hyundai Evolve Plus, and you can download the app, and you can go in there and browse to all of the Hyundai Kona EVs and Ioniq 5s for now that are available within whatever radius you select of your location. Right now, the closest ones to me, because they're just starting this program and works with dealers, are in New Jersey and Massachusetts.
Oh, that's close to me. That never happens.
Yeah.
Yay!
And so what it is a monthly subscription plan. You for the starting price for the for the Kona EV is $599 a month, and $799 a month for the Ioniq 5, and that gets you the vehicle, that gets you insurance, maintenance, and roadside assistance if needed. And to do it, you just go through the app, you browse of what's available. If you see something you like, you click on it, you create an account, scan your driver's license, and they do a quick soft credit check and background check to make sure you've got a relatively clean driving record. And after a minute or two, if you pass those, then let you put in credit card information and schedule a pickup time for the car from your local dealer. And that's it. Then you just pay for it month to month. You can turn it in at the end of any month. So if you're interested in seeing what it's like to live with an EV for a while, or you maybe just need a vehicle temporarily, if your vehicle got totaled or stolen or something, and you're waiting a while to get something new, and you want to try out an EV, or one example they gave in the presentation was, if you got kids coming home from college for the summer and they need a car for 3 or 4 months.
Or you want them to drive your trashy old car, and you get to drive the Hyundai.
That is the way it would actually
I'm not
work.
giving my daughter this. You get the crappy car, kid.
So it seems like a really interesting program. I'll be curious to see how it works out. They're doing it in conjunction with the dealers, and they'll. So you pick up the car from the dealer, but they say you can be in and out in 15 minutes. You do everything up front in the app, and then you just go pick up the car and be on your way. And then you can turn it in at the end of any 28-day period, and it just keeps, unless you cancel, it just keeps rolling over. And that's and then at any time, if you decide you want to buy or lease the car, you can do that. You can keep the car. If you want to change, if you want to go from a Kona to an Ioniq at the end of a month, or when the Ioniq 6 comes out in a few months, you can switch to that, or the Ioniq 7, or as they add other vehicles, you can switch to the other ones at any month, and you just start paying the whatever the price is for the new model, and you're good to go. And then anytime you're done, you can just turn it back in, drop it off at the dealer, and you're good.
I guess if you just needed a car for a little while, but the thing is, if you just need a car for a little while and you don't already have, because it rolls in like insurance and other stuff, which sounds like a great deal, but that would not be such a great deal like if your car's in the shop, right? Because you're already paying for insurance and all that kind of good stuff on your own car, so now you're just paying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, if your car was in the shop, then what you probably want to do is just get a standard rental car.
Yeah.
But, for example, if your car's been totaled, for example, or it's been stolen, and you might be waiting some period of time, some indeterminate period of time to get a payout, or you want to order something new, this gives you, something you can get in the interim or, on a longer term basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that dissimilar to, the Care by Volvo program. Hyundai's been piloting it for the last 12 months with 8 dealers in 6 different states, and because they do it through the dealers rather than trying to do it directly to consumers. The dealers seem to be happier about it, and they're expecting that most dealers will join the program by the end of the year. I did have a chance to talk with Kristin Gomez from Hyundai about it and get a little more detail on it, and I will drop that in right here. Kristin, first of all, what's your title, your role at Hyundai America?
Yeah, great. And first, thank you for interviewing me today. I'm Kristin Gomez, Senior Group Manager, Regulatory Strategy and Eco-Mobility. And
one of the big announcements today here in Chicago was the national launch of Evolve Plus. What exactly is Evolve Plus for those that haven't heard about it?
Yeah, great question. Evolve Plus is an EV subscription program, and it's designed to provide flexible, easy access to EVs on the customer's terms. It's a monthly, for a monthly price, they get a bundled, insurance, roadside assistance, and maintenance on that vehicle, including 1,000 miles for that 28-day term.
Okay, and there have been other automakers that have tried various kinds of subscriptions. Volvo, most notably, with its Care by Volvo. But for that one, you've got to sign up for a minimum of 12 months. You can go 1 month at a time right from day one. Is that correct?
Right, correct. You can get in the vehicle. You can renew it if you like it, if it's working for you, or you could stop it. It's really flexible and up to the customer, and we think that kind of flexibility opens up kind of the access to EVs. That I know we talked about during our announcement today, which is it doesn't lock you in for a very long term on a technology that you're maybe just getting used to.
And explain do a quick walkthrough of what is the process. Because from the description, it sounds incredibly easy. It almost sounds too easy. So walk us through what's the process for getting into this program.
Sure. The first thing is to download the app, a Hyundai Evolve Plus, on Google Play or Apple's App Store. And then you can look in the app before signing up or applying. You can search inventory for the dealer nearest you. And then if you're interested, you can sign up, create a profile, and then you go through the application process. The app itself will check your driving history, your credit check, and it quickly lets you know whether you qualify for the program. And then you reserve your vehicle at a time, and you go into your dealer at that designated time or the time that you've chosen, and you pick it up, and you're out within 15 minutes.
So what would be the cost? What would be, for a typical cost for this? Say for an Ioniq 5. Or maybe an Ioniq 6. I don't know if you announced Ioniq 6 pricing, but let's say Ioniq 5. What kind of is there a deposit you have to put down as a customer? Or down payment? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of pricing, and I'll invite Dan in here, but there is an activation fee at about $300. And I would just note that if you renew, then you're not paying it every single time you renew. The only time you have to pay it again is if you get out of the program for 90 days or more, and then you come back in. Then you're treated as a new customer again. Otherwise, that $300 is going to carry you for as long as you want that vehicle. And then in terms of pricing, we've got two vehicles two EVs, our Kona EV and our Ioniq 5. And the starting price on those, on the Kona EV, is $699 and $899. But I'd welcome any other comments from you.
You've said everything spot on. And the only thing I would add is because it's a dealer-centric model, we're suggesting those rates. The dealers should charge according to their market and their market needs. So those are the suggested starting rates. We've seen some dealers throughout the pilot charge different rates, and then charge some of their success and their utilization. So.
And the reason I asked, part of the reason I asked the question about the pricing and whether it's fixed, because when you've got the dealers involved, obviously they're going to have some influence here, but I know, from the feedback that we get from listeners to Wheel Bearings, one of the big complaints, a lot of people are going out looking for Ioniq 5, looking for Kona EVs, and they're finding huge markups. You cannot find one for sticker price. And how much flexibility do the dealers have in adjusting those prices?
So the app itself is flexible from the dealer standpoint. We strongly have recommended pricing to be that makes sense for both the dealer and the customer. It's the dealer's discretion, but what we have found is the dealers tend to, at least in the pilot phase, have tended to award those recommended prices. And
as you look through the list of available vehicles in the app, is the price for each one posted in there so that, you can decide right up front, okay, I'm willing to pay, was it $699 for the Kona and $899 for the Ioniq 5?
Yes.
Okay, and if a dealer has some adjusted price from that, would that be included in there, or?
So the price that you see is the price that you're getting.
Okay.
There's no markup that happens after that.
Okay. And obviously, insurance costs from state to state vary. Would that also vary in the app? As you roll this out nationally, I know Michigan, for example, has significantly higher insurance premiums than a lot of other states. Would there be differences in prices from state to state?
Initially, no. We've factored in averages, and hence that's one reason why the dealers are charging our suggested rates to factor in those variances.
Okay.
Even within markets, territories within a metro market or a more rural market would differ within the same state, right? But for the time being, we're fixing it.
Okay.
In the future, we're building in that flexibility to charge more based upon the driver, so that dynamic can adjust the pricing.
Okay.
So for your older, more established driver, there might be a lower premium than the younger driver coming into the program.
Okay.
Just like we would, as individuals, be charged by our own insurance company.
Okay.
All right.
And that price that you see, that includes service, maintenance, insurance, but obviously not charging though, right?
No.
Yeah. So one of I guess the next question, first of all, with Evolve Plus, is right now you've got two models. Soon, presumably, the Ioniq 6 will also be part of that as that becomes available. Or
any EVs that are coming online are always potential to enter the program.
So as the lineup of products improves, can a customer, from month to month, if they start off with a Kona and decide, I want something a little bit bigger, I want to go for the Ioniq 5, or I want to switch to Ioniq 6, or maybe at some point a 7, can they make that switch, and just pay the new, at the end of the month, pay the new price for that, whatever the price is for that different vehicle?
Yeah, it's completely renewable every 28 days. Mm-hmm. So the customer can switch to the next vehicle that's available, or the next vehicle of choice, every 28 days. Start with the Kona for 20 days, move to the Ioniq 5 for the next 28-day period, or take longer. And then if another were to be made available in the program, switch to that. So every 28 days, they're going to be able to try a new Hyundai product.
That interests them.
Yeah.
All right. And that's just something that they'll work through with their dealer.
Okay. So one of the challenges, especially with people that are new to EVs, and I think one of the goals probably for Hyundai is to attract people that haven't been in an EV before, give them that initial taste, and once they get used to that, it's like, oh yeah, I really like driving an EV. This works for me. Is education, especially around charging, one of the big challenges with EVs is the variability around charging, depending on temperature, depending on what your initial state of charge is, all these other things. Is Hyundai working with its dealers to help them better understand the vagaries of EV charging so that they can educate their customers, so the customers at least drive away having a better understanding of what to expect, so they don't get surprised when they go charge. If it's 5 degrees in Michigan, and their EV or their Ioniq 5, is not charging at 240 kilowatts, so they understand why. Is that part of what Hyundai is doing with its dealers as part of the expansion of EV availability?
That's a great question. The first thing that I wanted to speak to was your comment earlier about how this program fits into EV awareness, and kind of your question, I think, was baked in there, whether it was designed with that in mind, and the answer to that is absolutely. We know that there is a gap in understanding between, early adopters understand it, but when we're getting to the masses, there is this ramp-up piece to try to educate, raise awareness of how this can fit their lifestyle. That also includes switching the way that you fill up the tank, so to speak, and you got to charge now, not go to your local gas station. And that comes with its different challenges. It works differently than filling up your gas in your gasoline engine vehicle. So that's all part of it, and we do, as part of this program, go in and train our dealers on how to present this program to their customers. So if there are questions around this, etc., they can answer those. Okay.
And what percentage of Hyundai dealers today, I guess, are EV certified, or whatever terminology is that you use internally? What percentage of Hyundai dealers are selling EVs, and what's the feedback been from dealers about Evolve Plus and their willingness to adopt this program?
So between 50-55% of the dealers are what's considered Ioniq certified dealers to receive allocation and sell and service the vehicles. The EVs. As far as the uptake of the program, today there's only 8 dealers across 6 states involved. Because we spent the last year working through the pilot and ensuring that everything works as seamlessly as we wanted it to for the customer and the dealer to operate this program. We're starting to communicate with dealers, and we're seeing a high level of interest in our dealers, and I believe next week we have more things on tap with our dealers to really outreach more. But we're seeing a fair amount of interest from our dealers in doing this. Our intent is over the course of the next year, through the end of 23, to have every single one of those Ioniq certified dealers enrolled and active in the program. Okay, great.
It's pretty massive national.
Okay, and of course, going back to one of the driving forces behind this, to get new EV customers. Obviously, somebody that's new to EVs probably not going to have a charger at home. Is there a component of this, or is there something else that Hyundai has to help new customers, new to EV customers, get set up with home charging.
So are you, I'm sorry, can you clarify the question?
Yeah, and does Hyundai have any kind of program to help facilitate customers that are getting their first EV, find an electrician if that's necessary to do an installation of a level 2, or provide any discounts on that?
Yeah, so I'm really glad I asked for the clarification because we do.
Okay. Yeah.
So we also in November announced the launch of our Hyundai Home Concierge Service. So this is an entirely bundled package that's you can take as many of these components as you want. Or as little as you want, but it's the solar panels, it's the storage, it's the plug, it's all of it. And then there's actually think of a customer service line, right, where they walk you through everything you need to know, including here's an electrician you can use. Oh, here are incentives. Oh, and by the way, you're going to qualify for federal incentives on your house, X, Y, and Z. So we do have that product available, and it works seamlessly with this program.
Okay, great. Anything else that people should know about Evolve Plus or kind of your growing EV strategy?
I think that without question, Hyundai is leaning into electrification. And this piece, trying to help educate the customer, that's the piece that we really feel is going to propel us forward. Because once you get in our EVs, you realize how fantastic they are, and you don't want to go back. So we think that it's really going to, like I said, push us forward and help bring more people aboard.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Okay, and we're back. And let's hit a couple of listener questions. As I've mentioned in past weeks, if you want to participate in the show and send us a voice recording of your question or comment, you can do that. You can send it, you can either, if it's a small enough file, you can send it directly to feedback@wheelbearings.media, or you can put it in a Dropbox or OneDrive or wherever and just send us a link to it. And that's Adam Jakowenko sent us a file with his question. And Robbie, can you play that for us?
Hey, Wheel Bearings crew, this is Adam in San Diego, and I thought I would send a voice comment, switch things up a little bit for you. Anyway, I thought I would comment on the new GM site that just debuted, evlive.gm.com. It's actually their way that they can provide live chat, answer questions about their EVs, and even do one-way video demos where you can see them, but they can't see you. I actually sent this to my parents, whose first EV will be a Lyric, if it ever gets delivered. I've used it twice already.
Big if there.
I'll wait to speak with someone. That could probably change if it catches on, but they said it was a much better experience than asking their local dealer questions, who apparently knows very little. So, and also a lot better than asking me all their questions all the time, because I also. So anyway, thought I would share.
Yeah, so this is part of GM, the GM Live program. They actually launched this in 2020 with Cadillac. Cadillac was the first brand to launch this with live.cadillac.com, and they've got live.chevrolet.com. I think those are the URLs. I'll double check those and put the links in. And now they've got one for EV Live. And what they're doing is GM actually has a studio in Sterling Heights, Michigan. I was actually there for a GMC event a couple of weeks ago, and so they have, within this large building that they have, they've got a bunch of smaller studios in there for the different brands and different vehicles, and they've got product experts in there who have been trained by GM as opposed to being, dealer personnel that may have looked through a brochure or something. And, who knows what kind of training they've
At one time, I looked through a thing, and I thought I was thinking.
And so, you can log in there, into the live site and do a live chat, and they, you can, in some cases, they'll be in a studio with the car that you want to talk about, and they can do a live walk around and answer your questions. So if there's something on the car you want to get a look at, something in the interior or exterior, they can walk you around and answer all your questions, and they've been really well trained, and they tend to have a better understanding of the product than typical sales personnel. So it's worth taking a look if you're interested in something from GM.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I just poked around. I hadn't seen that site before. It does look pretty slick and a nice way to figure out a little bit more about EVs without getting too far into the weeds, like a little bit more layperson friendly.
Yeah. All right, and then the last one from M. Burns on Mastodon. It says, the first question he had was about how do folks join the Discord to talk with us, and I sent him a link to that, and I will also post that. I'll put that link in the show notes for this episode. Up until this week, we've been reserving it for patrons, but I'm going to open it up to everybody now.
Ooh.
So everybody can try it
Ooh,
out.
go Sam.
Look at that. Well, you have a special room for patrons, like the patron party room?
Yeah, I think so.
Champagne and doves. I don't know.
Doves.
Champagne and doves. That's a party.
Okay.
All right. And then he also had a question, but he says, I have a quad cab truck used occasionally for towing and hauling. Would really like to move to a PHEV, like a Jeep Wrangler 4xe, though. How many manufacturers, or how are manufacturers defining towing for PHEVs? Are there any gotchas in the fine print about damaging the battery or electric motor? Well, you should probably always check the fine print for gotchas because there may be some there. But in general, the tow ratings for plug-in hybrids or hybrids, and frankly everything now, are all done with the same standard. There used to be every manufacturer had their own way of testing their towing, coming up with their tow ratings, and back about I think 10, 12, maybe 13 years ago, the Society of Automotive Engineers put together a standard called J2807, which is a standardized test procedure for measuring towing capability. And so that is used by everybody now, regardless of what the powertrain is. So if I'm not sure what the tow rating is, for example, for a Wrangler plug-in hybrid, or I'm not sure if the Wrangler 4xe.
Oh, if only we knew someone who had one of those.
I don't know what the tow rating is. I'm literally frantically Googling right now.
Oh,
it says
Nicole.
I know. I don't really tow with it. 23 Jeep Wrangler 4xe, 3,500 pounds.
Okay. I think for the Grand Cherokee 4xe, it's a little bit. I think it's actually about 6,000 pounds. But I'm not 100% certain. Maybe you can check that for me too, Nicole.
I'm working on it.
I know it's definitely
on the case.
Higher than the Wrangler.
It says 3,500 to 6,000, so maybe it depends how it's equipped.
Okay, it depends on your configuration.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and those tow ratings are going to be comparable to what you would get for any, in terms of the way they're measured, it's the same procedure across the board, regardless of what the powertrain is.
And I don't really think there's gotchas in terms of they try and surprise you, but it's always good to read, if you tow all the time, or even if you just know you're going to tow, just make sure you read the whole thing before you commit to your vehicle.
And make sure you're looking at the trim level.
Yeah, because we just saw on the Grand Cherokee 4xe that I just pulled up, it's not the same on every version of your car. If you're going to get the limited or this or that or all-wheel drive or not all-wheel drive or whatever you're getting, make sure you look for exactly what you're buying and know exactly what you're buying and how much it tows, because it can vary from trim to trim, and you don't want to the gotchas if you're not paying attention more and you just think, oh, they all tow 5,000, but the one you got only tows 35, then you're in trouble. Then you can hurt your car.
Yeah, and because especially with something like a Jeep, for example, where you've got some radically different type of tires on some of these models. If you're getting a Wrangler Rubicon or a Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, where it's got these off-road all-terrain tires, the tow ratings on those are typically going to be a little lower than what you would get on a standard all-season tire, just because of the way the load ratings are done for those tires. So you want to look, you want to check what it is for the specific configuration you want. Mm-hmm. One other thing to look out for, generally there's not going to be a problem with the batteries or the motors, but I know in the past, sometime long ago, I was at a drive program for I think it was for the Chevy Traverse, the original Chevy Traverse, and they had the Toyota Highlander there, Highlander Hybrid, in fact, as a comparison vehicle. And they showed us something from the owner's manual in there for towing, that you could tow 3,500 pounds with the Highlander Hybrid, but Toyota said do not go over 55 miles an hour when you're towing with this vehicle. So, you have to watch. There may be some limitations that you need to watch out for, but that is not necessarily specific to being electrified.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing that they do differently in terms of how they try to inform you. It's just always just really pay attention. Make sure you read the whole thing every time like that, all the caveats that could be in there so that you're not unpleasantly surprised when you go to tow and realize you can't tow what you thought you wanted to tow.
Whoopsie.
Yep. All right. And that's it for this week. Anything else you guys have?
I don't have anything else. That's it.
All right.
Everything.
Not a zippo.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.